Hi everyone, and welcome. My name is Troy Lambert, and I'm the education lead for Plottr. And today we're going to talk about Freytag's pyramid. Now, what is Freytag's pyramid? Well, I can tell you what it's not. Freytag's pyramid is not one of the lost pyramids of Egypt. No, Freytag's pyramid is a plot structure. It was developed by Gustav Freytag, a German playwright and novelist of the mid-19th century. He theorized that effective stories could be broken into two halves, the play and counterplay, with the climax in the middle. He originally wrote about this structure in his 1863 book, Freytag's Technique of the Drama, and over the last 150 years or so, it's become one of the most commonly taught dramatic structures in the world, finding its way into thousands of classrooms and writing workshops. It's really popular, especially for tragedies. Now, those two halves create a pyramid, or a triangle shape. It's often depicted as containing 5 major plot points: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and a denouement or catastrophe, what Freytag called a catastrophe. Essentially, this mirrors the 5-act structure often used by Shakespeare. In a modern interpretation, however, this has been expanded. We've added 2 more plot points: an inciting incident and a resolution, and instead of 5 acts, we broken it into 3 different acts. With that, let's take a closer look at Freytag's pyramid. Now, who is Freytag's pyramid for, and why would you use it? Well, if you like to start your planning with a simple plot structure and discovery right in between major, or what we call tentpole events, Freytag's pyramid might be perfect for you. It gives you a general roadmap for your story, but it leaves plenty of room for creativity and discovery along the way. It's an established plot structure, and one that's helped authors structure stories, and most often tragedies, including modern retellings of Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, for years and years. So it's something you know that can work for your story. Now, let's take a closer look at what the parts of Freytag's pyramid actually are. We're going to start our discussion of Freytag's pyramid with the exposition. The exposition is the introduction to the story. This is where we introduce the central characters and show the reader what the central conflict will be. This is also where we establish the mood and atmosphere of the story, and where the theme is often stated. Now, unless the story is more of a satire, the tone of a story that uses Freytag's pyramid is often dark and almost always ends with some kind of a disaster. The events of this section, however, lead towards what we call the inciting incident. The inciting incident, as we mentioned before, is a modern addition to the 5-act structure Freytag originally developed. Rather than an act, however, this is a point of conflict. This is the moment that propels the protagonist into the story. The inciting incident is something that cannot be resolved on its own, and it forces the protagonist to take action, even though often in Freytag's pyramid type stories, that action is forced as a result of a decision that the main character makes themselves. The rising action consists of the major events that lead up to the climax, or what we call in other plot structures the midpoint of the story. Generally, this is the section where we learn any needed backstory about the character, and we clearly see the main characters. The rising action consists of the major events that lead up to the climax, or what we call in other plot structures the midpoint of the story. Generally, this is the section where we learn any related backstory, and we clearly see the main character's motives, and this is also where the stakes and the tension escalate. All of this is leading to the midpoint and the climax and the major turning point in the story. The climax is the point at which your character makes a turn. They generally go from being reactive to things that are happening to them and responding to what is happening to them and around them, to being proactive, which means they're taking action to improve their situation, or so they think, and they're fully ready to act. They're fully ready to move towards what they see as the resolution. In a tragedy, this is often a point where things go from bad to worse for our main character. In a comedy, this can sometimes be the point where things take a turn for the better, even if that's temporary. As we move into the falling action, the tangled threads of the rising action are now unwound, and what is really happening in the story becomes clearer. All of the events are leading up towards the resolution. Usually at this point the stakes are as high as they're going to be, but the tension continues to rise. This is all leading to the place where the story will wrap up. In the case of a typical tragedy, things will likely end badly for our hero, and all roads now point in that direction. The resolution is the other modern addition to Freytag's pyramid. All of the trouble that's been brewing, all the threads that have become clear, now come together in a final resolution. In the case of a tragedy, often nearly everyone dies or loses in some way. In a satire, sometimes the character will lose or win, but either way, it's at a great sacrifice to themselves or the others around them. Again, Freytag's pyramid is usually used for very dark stories, as we're going to see when we look at an example in a couple minutes. Finally, the denouement, or conclusion, shows us the aftermath of the resolution. In many cases, nothing remains of the ordinary world. Everything has been changed, and there might not even be a hero in this story. If there is, the hero will be tragic and only have become victorious through great sacrifice to themselves and others, and many of the other characters in the story will have died. That is an overview of the 7 parts of Freytag's pyramid, the way we see them in a modern interpretation. With that, let's take a look at an example in the play Hamlet. In the play Hamlet, we see all of the different elements of Freytag's pyramid. Now, for the sake of this video, I've created a very simple summary of Hamlet. But if you click on the link in the comments below, you can grab the Plottr template that's going to have a much more detailed look at Hamlet in light of Freytag's pyramid, and also another variation on a way that you might look at Freytag's pyramid in more of a 5-act structure. So be sure to click on that and grab that once you've watched the rest of this video. Now, the exposition in Hamlet takes place when we see Hamlet in despair. This is Hamlet in his ordinary world, and his ordinary world is not great. This is the introduction of Hamlet and most of the central characters. Basically, the king, Hamlet's father, has been killed. Denmark is under attack from the Norwegian prince, and Hamlet's family is in ruins. His mother has remarried his uncle, and Hamlet hates him. So Prince Hamlet is miserable, and the audience learns that he's potentially suicidal. We're setting up for a dark story and starting with all kinds of trouble. In Hamlet, we're going to start with the exposition. And in Hamlet, this is when we see that Hamlet is very much in despair. This is the opening of the play, which is the introduction of Hamlet and most of the central characters. The king, Hamlet's father, has been killed. Denmark is under attack. Hamlet's family is in ruins. His mother's remarried his uncle Claudius, who he really doesn't like, and he is miserable. And the audience learns that he's also potentially suicidal. Now, when we move into the inciting incident, we wonder, has Hamlet gone mad? Because Hamlet meets the ghost of his father and learns that he was in fact murdered by his brother Claudius, who is now on the throne and married to Hamlet's mother, if you remember. The ghost of Hamlet's father demands that Hamlet seek revenge for his murder, but Hamlet isn't sure whether the ghost is trustworthy or a devil trying to trick him. Kind of, Hamlet's wondering, am I crazy? And he just might be. Because as we move into the rising action, we see that now the new king has become suspicious of Hamlet. Because Hamlet pretends. As we move into the rising action, we see that suspicion falls on Hamlet. Hamlet pretends to be crazy, but he starts to actually grow crazy. The king grows even more suspicious and begins spying on him. And then he sees him as a threat and decides he should be sent away. Time is running out for Hamlet and the stakes rise. Now Hamlet is visited by the ghost again and reminded, you've got to kill Claudius. So what is Hamlet going to do? Well, we move into the climax, or the midpoint, and this is where Hamlet starts to take action. So Hamlet decides he's going to put on a play called The Mousetrap, which is a play within a play, and it's mirrored out of the way that he believes that Claudius killed his father. And he's going to watch Claudius's reaction and see if he actually did commit the murder. Now, when Claudius reacts the way Hamlet thinks he does, Hamlet actually does go crazy, and he wants to kill the king, but he's spying on him and doesn't want to kill him when he's in confession and praying, so he follows him to his mother's chambers, and he accidentally kills Polonius instead of Claudius while he's confronting his mother. And so Hamlet, now truly crazy and have murdered the wrong person, runs away. Now, Hamlet returns during the following action, and he sees that a funeral is happening. So he essentially crashes the funeral, and he discovers that Ophelia, a woman that he loves, has gone mad and died when she fell from a willow tree into a brook and drowned. As we move into the following action, we see a funeral. Hamlet has been sent away. His friend, Polonius' son, returns from France and finds his father dead and resolved to avenge his death. Claudius and Latterus conspire to kill Hamlet. Now, following that, Hamlet returns to Elsinore, and he discovers that Ophelia, his love, has gone mad and died when she fell from a willow tree into a brook and drowned. So Hamlet, as one does, crashes the funeral. He and Latterus begin to fight, but are pulled apart by other mourners. Hamlet storms away, and Latterus wants to follow Hamlet and kill him. But Claudius has another plan. He's going to set up a duel between the two of them, and using a poisoned sword, he's going to kill Hamlet. We come to the resolution, and the resolution of this story is the duel. If you're familiar with Hamlet, you know how this is going to go. The duel begins. The queen is poisoned accidentally. Latterus manages to cut Hamlet with a poisoned blade. But as they continue to fight, their swords accidentally get mixed up, and Hamlet ends up cutting and poisoning his opponent as well. So now both of them are poisoned and injured, but because it takes a little while for the poison to take effect and them to die, Hamlet finally kills King Claudius as he is dying, and then Claudius dies as well. So in other words, at the end of this scene, everyone's dead. With that, we move on to the denouement. Now, the denouement is very short in Hamlet because there's only one major character remaining, and that's Horatio, and he is able to tell the truth of Hamlet's death. Then the King of Norway arrives, finds the Danish royal family dead, so there's no more opposition to his rule, and then he claims the throne of Denmark. As you can see, Hamlet follows the typical route of Freytag's pyramid. It's very much a tragedy, and the resolution is indeed a catastrophe. But you know, there's probably other ways to use Freytag's pyramid than satire or tragedy. And I can imagine that you may have found some of those. If you found a way to use Freytag's pyramid, or if you can think of a way that you might use it in your stories, let us know about that in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notifications bell so you don't ever miss anything we post.
And if you're not a Plottr user already, visit try.plottr.com/free trial to check it out for yourself today. We look forward to hearing what you think and seeing you in the Plottr community. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful day.